What exactly is an AI roadmap? How much detail should it include? And is it part of a digital strategy or something separate?
Yeah, so the reason this question comes up is in the Scaling AI class, the 5 steps we outline, one of them is to create an AI roadmap. So that's, I think, the fifth and final step is the AI roadmap. And so the way we teach that is it's basically looking at sort of a couple levels. One is the projects you're running where you're driving efficiency and productivity and improving creativity, just the obvious things based on your current workflows that you can be doing smarter with AI. And then simultaneously, you're looking at the bigger opportunities like problem solving, looking at, core challenges you already have in the business and trying to figure out how do we solve these in a more intelligent way while also looking at growth and innovation. So when we think about a roadmap, there's lots of components to it. There's your overall vision of how you're going to apply AI. There's looking at use cases. But at its most fundamental level, what it's trying to do is lay out a timeline for the next 12 to 18 months of what are the use cases we're going to solve, what are the problems we're going to solve, how are we going to drive innovation and growth, so that as we think about the impact on our teams, we're trying to grow the company so we can maintain our employees as we drive efficiency and may not need as many people to do the work that's already there. So that's the roadmap can take on different forms for different companies. My preference is they're just really dynamic documents. It's not something you stop for 6 months and build this roadmap and hold off doing things until then. It's kind of this dynamic thing that you're sort of building as you're running all these pilot projects and starting to solve problems more intelligently. It just puts some cohesion to it and ideally some visualization, some timeline of the major things that we're pursuing as a company.
Yeah, and this was a long question, so I put it into 2 parts. The second part is, and you kind of answered it, how do you know when your roadmap is ready for implementation? Is it ever really done?
No, I don't think it is. I think that they're very, like I said, dynamic's probably the best word I've got for this, where, we may look at it and I don't know, I could zoom back and look at our own organization. I think people have some level of freedom to constantly be experimenting in their business department, business unit, within their team, where they're just always trying and experimenting with things. And sometimes they hit on something that becomes core to what we do. So, with the podcast, one of the early pilot projects we ran was how to build a more intelligent process for doing the podcast each week. And so Descript was one of the tools that became core to that process. But we've tested, Cathy, a dozen at least different tools related to just the podcast alone.
Oh, at least.
Yeah. And so that's like an initiative that's ongoing because we know it's going to be core to what we do. The podcast is fundamental to our growth strategy. So that's just constantly going while we're looking at these other bigger picture things and trying to figure out how to apply it both to our own internal operations, our marketing, our sales, our customer success. So yeah, I think we're just always looking at, this constant ongoing experimentation process while working on a more formal document or overall workflow to how we apply AI across the business.
Yep. And when it came to things like the podcast, there are some bigger, we need Descript to do the podcast.
Yeah.
We need a smaller tool, or we like the smaller tool to help us do little snippets. That's not critical. Descript is critical. So It's like this mini use cases, little use cases versus a fundamental tool that we need.
Yeah, and I think we're always experimenting this too with ChatGPT and Google Gemini are sort of the 2 main chat platforms that we use, multimodal model platforms that we use. And off the top of my head, I can't think of a time where we literally sat down and just devised this whole ChatGPT strategy of here's the 20 ways we're going to use it against these 20 campaigns. We just gave everybody licenses, trained everybody how to use the tools. Obviously, everybody in our company is probably gets a little bit more AI education and training on the job than the average company because it's so infused into what we do. So we're constantly sharing how to apply that technology. And that's never done. Literally every day, today I was building the AI deep research webinar that I'll have given by the time this comes out on the 25th. And even in that, we've been using deep research as a company since the day it came out, but we've never sat down and said, okay, here's the plan to do it. And in building the presentation, I actually I was like, oh, okay, this actually would probably help us internally. Let's make sure everybody in our own company watches this webinar because this is going to be very helpful for people to think about this. So no, I don't see it as ever done. Depending on the size of your company and how your budgeting process works, it may need to be more formal, but I don't think done is ever a thing that I would consider the AI roadmap.